What's going on, guys? Big Jared back with you guys again. And today we're talking about creating trap melodies. So let's talk about what we're going to be talking about first and getting used to the breakdown. And then, we'll jump into it. All right. I'm excited to talk about this stuff with you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Yep, that's what I want to do. Boom. Okay. Awesome. And what I'm going to do, if you guys see me looking over here, I got like another monitor over here. So cool. So let's go ahead and pull this guy up. And right. So trap melodies. Cool. So the first thing, don't worry if your, Zoom is the connection's weak or whatever. I'm plugged right into the wall. I should be fine. Plus, I think Aaron is recording it and he's plugged right into. So no worries if your connection's a little bit weird or whatever, because you will be able to download this and watch it. If there's like a part you glitched out, you missed or something, don't worry about it. Awesome. So difference between chat versus Q&A. If you guys have been to my live streams before, you'll know how I do it. The chat window is for like just saying what's up. So you could be like, hey, what's up? Or you're talking to a buddy, you're like, oh, that was dope or whatever. But the Q&A is what I'm going to be looking at to actually field questions. Okay, I do have both windows open. So I do see the information coming in. But yeah, don't put your questions in the chat because they may get overlooked, right? I know this is a smaller collective right now, so we should be able to get everybody's questions answered, no problem at all. Now, another thing that I want to say is I am the type of teacher that likes to make sure we understand things as we're going along. It's great. Like I've been in seminars before where they hold the questions to the end, and if we get to the end and there's time for more questions, that's great. But you guys hit me with your questions. Like if I'm doing something that you don't understand what I'm doing or it doesn't make sense 100%, hit me with a question. I have no problem fielding questions. In fact, I like fielding questions throughout the whole thing. It's more interactive, and I don't want you to, just go along with some of these theories if you don't understand them. Cool. So that's pretty much that. So what are you guys going to be getting with this? Like I said, you're going to be getting the Zoom session, and that's correct. But you'll also be getting this keynote thing that I made up for you guys. And if I could jump to the end, I have a whole like reference section where I put like a bunch of really cool stuff to think about. And I even give you guys like a gain staging thing for your instruments for trap genre. We'll get to that in a second. So you guys are going to be able to have this to reference later. Also, you'll get the Ableton session that we're working in today. I'm going to give you guys a small sample pack that I've made while I was preparing for this. Plus, that we'll probably make a few loops in here too. So you'll probably have like 10 or whatever, 15 cool trap loops to take home or whatever, mess with, dissect, whatever. You guys will have the drum rack that's in the session, which is dope, right? Because it's all tuned up and ready to go. All the MIDI that we're creating is in here as well. So you'll have that too. And also some audio effects racks, right? And we're going to go through a little bit of processing for these guys as well. So you'll be able to keep all that stuff to practice with everything. I tried to do as much stock stuff as I could so everybody can kind of mess with it. So should be good. I think there's a de-esser in there every once in a while or something like that, but whatever. So what are we going to be talking about today? Like trap melodies. Like what do I even mean? Well, we're going to be talking about creating two types of trap melodies. Okay, we're going to be talking about creating trap melodies from the ground up, and then also manipulating loops. So like, what do I mean by like trap melodies anyway? Right? So I mean like those those Travis Scott like creepy, slow, dark. They are really like even in like from anywhere between the trap that's like hip hop trap, like rapping, and then also like EDM trap, like all of these slow, eerie melodies, they find their way into all trap genre. So we're going to be talking about making them. Awesome. So what are our goals, right? So we're gonna break this down into two sections, right? So the first section is gonna be like creating melodies like from like an instrument, right? Just making them from scratch. So first off, we're gonna talk about, because at first I know these, it's interesting, right? It's one of those things that once you know how to do it or once you see it done, it's super easy, right? But actually, it was a little bit confusing for me at first. So hopefully this will demystify some stuff for you guys. So we're going to be talking about like learning like the fundamentals, right? So we're going to be talking about what are the ingredients, right? So if we could put words to this, right? So the first thing I always like to do when I'm trying to break something down or recreate something is like figure out what it is that I like. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to be like, yeah, I like that. But it's another thing to be like, well, this is why I like it. And then once you understand why you like it, well, then you can kind of use that in your own way, right? Great. So the next thing is like your sound palette, like traditionally best starting points. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about common, and these are like really kind of subjective, right? But common scales, right? Like you could probably make an amazing trap melody in any scale, right? But we're gonna talk about the ones that I came across the most often. Common plugins, things that are going to get there's at least one or two plugins that give you that trap sound that we're gonna talk about. And some common techniques on making these melodies and also processing them and all that kind of stuff too. And then we're going to talk about loop manipulation, right? Wouldn't be hip hop or trap music if we weren't talking about manipulating loops, right? So like learning fundamentals of loop manipulation, like what does that even mean? Like I'm talking about what is going on. Why are we going to manipulate this loop? We'll get into all of that. Again, starting, best starting points. So this is something that I'm going to be talking about today too. It's going to be stuff like we're going to be tuning our samples and getting them correct for the key and then editing them. It opens up a can of worms when you do it the other way. But anyway, that's what I kind of mean when I'm talking about best starting points. And then we're going to be talking about a few different ways that we can go about messing with our loops or manipulating our loops. We could do it in simpler or sampler, probably simpler, right? Because it's got that slice to MIDI. And then also you could just slice it to MIDI into a drum rack or something. So there's a couple of different ways that we can go about that. And I'll show you some cool things that I found along the way. And then we'll be saving all of this stuff. Cool. So section 1, right? Creating melodies, right? And again, like I said, if anybody has any questions about anything or concepts or whatever, please feel free to hit me up in the Q&A. So, and I encourage questions. I really do. I know it's maybe a smaller session today. Don't be shy, right? Don't be shy. Interact with me. I love it. So great. So if we had to, so first of all, let's go ahead and I'm going to go into here real fast and let me make sure that I've got this guy here. Perfect. Let's go ahead and hear like a couple of these loops, right? So I've got this guy right here is just going to be a bell, right? Go ahead and turn this guy on. Okay, we just skip ahead. I got a couple more examples. We're going to be going into all of them. And I got this guy over here. I made this one out of, this is a manual reverse. That one's sick AF. And then this guy over here is going to be like a beat manipulation here. So let's see. What do we got right here? So this was the original one here. That we repitched it, retimed it, and reorganized it. So we'll have a lot of fun today. We have a lot of cool melodies to make here, and like I said, you guys get all of these melodies to take home and mess with. So no worries there. So great. So now the reason I jumped into that was because we need to, and I'm sure you guys have heard melodies like this, like I said, Travis Scott, like Will Made It. You know, they're all the way through hip hop trap, and then also like EDM trap, right? So cool. So how could we quantify that? My first problem when I was first trying to do these was I was using just too many notes, right? Like when I was trying to play the melody and I was trying to make it too complicated. And these guys are like super, super simple. When I say simple, I mean not a lot of notes. Simple, I don't mean that they're simple. I just mean that they're not complex. How's that? Cool. So most of the ones that I hear, I noticed that they're like super dark, right? So they are like a minor feel. And then also another thing that I noticed is a lot of times they're really just quarter notes or eighth notes, depending upon the BPM. And I know that sounds weird, right? Because if we're listening to like any one of these, if you listen to it, we're getting both a double time feel and a half time feel. And that's going to come into play when we start talking about our plugins, right? We'll get to that. So I'm going to give you guys a lot of ways to go about this, right? We're going to be talking about different techniques on how to create these. So we're going to be using MIDI effects. We're going to be arpeggiating chords. And that's what I'm noticing a lot of times. These are not necessarily always arpeggiated chords, but they are definitely arpeggiated. Cool. And to me, they have the thing I just mentioned. They have this fast and slow at the same time feel. Okay. And that's going to be halftime. I'm going to be showing you guys halftime today, and gross beat a little bit. Gross beat is really complicated. So halftime is the one that I use more often than not, just because I haven't really sunk my teeth fully into gross beat yet. If you guys don't know gross beat, it's from Fruity Loops. I'm getting ahead of myself. Doesn't matter. You'll say it all. Awesome. So good. So ingredients, right? So now we know we kind of know, and I know I'm going over this a bit quickly right now, and that's okay because we are going to go in and do some of these, obviously. Cool. So, right. So how do we create variation when it just repeats over and over again, right? And this is where your sub's going to come into play. And if you were actually extending this into a song, then, we would be adding and subtracting elements. Most of the time in these trap melodies or trap songs, it's once you get a sick loop, it just loops for the whole song usually. Cool. So again, how do we create that variation? And I'll show you guys. I did a couple different sub patterns for you so you can see how it works. Awesome. So now that we know kind of what shape we're going to be making, right? Like what are some of the ingredients we're going to be using, right? So usually to go for that standard trap sound, there's bells, there's like strings or guitar sounds, piano sounds, plucks, xylophones. These are like a lot of the common ones. Of course, there really is no rules, right? But we're just trying to dissect. Like again, from what I said earlier, it's like, okay, I like trap melodies. Okay, well, why do I like trap melodies? Okay, start there. And I always say you gotta know the box before you can think outside of it, right? So we're learning the box right now. Okay, great. So common synths, right? Now, again, I'm going to try to keep it as stock and Ableton friendly as possible, so this session actually means something to you. However, Nexus is so popular. I think DJ Mustard uses exclusively Nexus. Omnisphere is great. Avenger is great. Really, I mean, anything is great, right? But these are going to be the ones that are going to be the standout ones that most people are going to use when they're making this kind of music. Cool. So common trap libraries, if you guys were interested in finding some legit like trap sounds, 808 Warfare is kind of like pretty standard, right? For your 808s. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably have that. And then Studio Linked. Anything by this guy is super good and super trappy, and I recommend checking it out if you haven't messed with his stuff yet. Cool. So we said that it was going to be like a dark kind of feel, right? So what scales should we mess with, right? And this isn't a theory lesson. We're basically going to just turn on, scale mode on our push or scale mode MIDI effects. And that's the level that I want to talk about scales right now. But what are some good ones to pick, right? So some good ones to pick, I think, are obviously going to be your natural minor. That's your basic natural minor scale. And then you've got your harmonic minor, which raises the seventh, just gives you a different kind of a sound. You've got your Phrygian, which gives you that half step from one to, from your one to your two, you get that half step there. And Phrygian dominant is something that I like to mess around with. This might be out of our realm today, but when recently they updated the scales in Ableton and on your push, Ableton Live, they added Phrygian dominant. So it's, again, everything here you could find right over here when you go to your scales, boom, you've got everything we were talking about down here, and they've added a bunch more. So, or if you have it on your push, you just, hit the scale button. Cool. Awesome. So great. So again, some common plugins we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Halftime. Halftime is super sick, and guys, it's $12. So if you guys like it at all, it's one of those impulse buys that you don't have to feel too bad about. Gross Beat, on the other hand, I guess we'll look at it, but I ended up getting it for free, just through like the Fruity Loops. I don't know. I guess you have to sign in and then go to the forum. You know what I mean? So you have to sign up, go to the forum, and then in the forum, they released the beta for OS X. It's weird, but basically you get all Fruity Loops plugins. Look, I'll show you. You get all Fruity Loops plugins right here. See? Pretty cool, right? So here's Gross Beat here, works perfectly too, and then you can all of them. You got all the Fruity Loops stuff. So like I said, it's free too for whatever reason. Cool, at least it was when I did it. Awesome. And then we're going to talk about some common processing, right? So after we make the melodies, we want to be able to drop them into our beat and use them. So common things we could do to get that sounding good real fast. Awesome. So let's go ahead and start messing around with some of this stuff here. So, cool. So let's go ahead and check out what we got here. So basically, what I've got going on is just a regular drum beat, regular old drum beat here. Let's go ahead and put this around it. Now notice that this 808 here, this is one of those things that I wanted to say. This is basically literally going to loop over and over and over again. Okay, it's just there's nothing crazy about this. I tried to keep these guys as simple as possible. Now over here, this is where we're going to get creative with our sub. We're gonna reharmonize. Okay, we're gonna reharmonize our sub with our lead, right? Here's what I'm talking about. So again, the loop goes on, looping, and we could make it feel like something different's happened by reharmonizing the sub underneath of it. So again, less is more often than not, if you know what I mean. So again, one of my pitfalls in the beginning was just doing too much. I would just try to be doing these melodies with chords in them. And again, I'm not saying that you can't, but traditionally, standardly, you don't, because you just let this one thing loop and loop, and then the other things kind of work around it, right? Awesome. So cool. So we're going to build one of these up from scratch, actually, so I can show you guys how to do this. But let's take a listen to what's going on here so we can understand it first, right? So if we were just to listen to the lead without any effects, right? Nothing on this rack here. And it's just a bell sound. I even made the one shot for you guys, so you'll have this bell sound. And then after you got this on it, so pretty cool. So now there's a couple of things that I want to at least call your attention to before we go in and start recreating this. Okay, and the first thing is halftime right here. Okay, this guy is super duper dope, and it's super super cheap, like I said, and pretty easy to understand. You know, where is the right back here is like a full-on kind of instructions on how to use it, but it's really nothing to it. I can show you right now. So basically, without it, so basically what it's doing is it's putting, I guess, a halftime copy of the loop behind it. And then you've got a lot of controls here. This controls how the fade comes in. This controls how the sound releases into the halftime. And then you've got these different subdivisions up here. And then you've got this different mode down here. Let me show you. And then also you have a filter here. So now, okay, so first off, the most obvious one would be this here. Let me go ahead and just bring this in full on. So just by taking the mix down, so just by doing that, you get a pretty legit trap sound. But let's kind of understand what's happening here. So this is going to slow it down 2 times, right? And you can obviously hear that it sounds pitched as well. Okay, so that's what that's doing. Now I can slow it down 4 times. That's going to give you a lower sensation. And now this is going to be sort of like a triplet feel. So, cool. So now we've got, I guess, how much the loop happens, right? So that's the one that I liked right there. So then after I get myself, you know, a feel the way I like it, then I so cool. So this is pretty much halftime, right? Now this guy is, I think it's super easy to use and super wicked. And then this effects thing over here is interesting. It just, I don't know, it just like gives you 4 options, right? So you could have this weird, and then this kind of gives you a little bit of a percussion at the end of it. This is going to give you like a sustain on that. And this gives you a weird swell. Cool, great, and that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. So awesome, right? So now let's go ahead and make one of these guys. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. I'm gonna just move this guy out of the way, I guess, real fast. Okay, let's go ahead and do this from scratch, right? We'll start turning these guys on one at a time, and I'll kind of talk about what I'm doing here. Boom, boom. Okay, and okay, cool. Let me see if I can get a little bit of better. Hopefully this doesn't mess with everything too much. Okay, great. So basically here, now there's a couple different ways we could do this actually. So the first way that I'm going to show you guys is, you know, just kind of setting up your, like, for example, if I go ahead here and I grab, I got my keyboard. I won't use my push, right? So here's what I'll do. Check this out. I'm going to go here and let's see if this all works out for me. Max for live. No. Here. There. Max for live. And let's see, I'll put my piano here so you can see that. Cool. And I think, oh yeah, right. And now we're going to go ahead and go into a MIDI effects, right? So again, first thing we're going to be thinking to ourselves, we're going to think, okay, I've never done this before. I want to make a sick trap melody. Great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to limit ourselves to a couple of things, right? So let's go ahead and limit ourselves to, well, we're only going to do quarter notes, right? Because if you see this guy here, all of these guys are set to just quarter notes, okay? So that's the first limitation we're going to put on ourselves. We're only going to fill in quarter notes. So it's not like we're going to be, you know, jamming out. Next limitation is we're going to pick one of those scales that we said we liked. So let's go ahead and grab Phrygian, right? Because Phrygian gives us that half step. So let's go, or we can do harmonic minor since it's right here. Great. Let's grab harmonic minor. That gives us the seventh up top. So here we go. Let's pull this guy in. And then we're going to go ahead and set our bass. That's all that is just saying the root, right? And we're just doing this all in G, okay? So now I've got, notice that if I turn this off, right? So I'm just playing between G and G. And the beauty of this guy is only if I play, I'm going to play all white notes again, but you'll notice now I'm getting the harmonic minor scale. Awesome. So pretty cool. Now, just for the sake of creation, I want to go ahead and turn on. Great. So now all I can't possibly hit notes that aren't in the key. So now really what we're going to do is we're going to just let this guy play a little bit. I'm going to just mess around with it for 2 seconds and start inputting notes, right? So here we go. And again, we've got our sound. We're only going to use quarter notes. We've picked ourselves a scale. Simple. So here we go. So there we go. We got something happening there. So let's go and put that in. Cool. So there we go. Great. And what we're going to do is just make sure that these guys, well, we could have them overlap if you want. Just make sure they're on beat. Yeah, we should have them overlap. do one variation here, pop it up an octave. Great, awesome. So awesome. So at this point, we want to go ahead and kind of, for me, I want to make room for the vocals, right? This is going to be sitting with vocals, so let's make room for them. So let's go ahead and turn this on. So guys, check this out. Good pro tip here is 400's not your friend. 400 is where all the mud is hidden, right? So a lot of times, if you guys want something to be a little bit more punchy or a little bit more in your face, removing 400 from your basses, your kicks, really anything is going to free up a lot of space for you. Great, so now we got that. Let's go ahead and open up our halftime and mess around with this a little bit. There we go. Amazing, okay? So now we're getting that halftime feel. Awesome. So this is pretty much how, as far as I know, how everybody uses OTT, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to bring these guys up to almost the top, and we're going to bring this guy down. And then we're going to mix in how much we want, right? So there's none of it. That always makes a huge difference. Awesome. Now, this knob right here, a lot of people don't know what this knob does. You see how each one of these bands has a different attack and release time? Like this one here, and then this one here, and then this one here, right? So if I want to adjust the attack and the release time, but I want to adjust it as a unit, not as a band for band thing, well, then I can go ahead and use this time knob. And what it's going to do is it's going to adjust all three bands' attack and release at the exact same time based on each other. So it'd be like, you know, moving them all the knobs at once. So by going this way, it's going to tighten up your sound with a faster release. And then this way is going to make your sound last longer, right? So if I just turn it up. So like which way is better really depends on what you want, right? So I like to start somewhere around here and see where it starts to feel right. That, to me, that sounds a little bit thin. Might be okay if I was doing like a growl bass or something like that, but for this particular thing, I like to keep the body in there. Awesome. So now this is a pretty cool little trick here. This is going to be the way I think you, and I'm going to give you guys this rack as well. I think that all your reverbs should be done this way. So basically what this is doing is I've got a dry channel, right, with nothing on it at all. Let's just close these down so we're not confused. Great. So here's our rack, right? Our reverb rack. So we got our dry channel. Basically, it's just an audio rack. And again, if anybody's confused about how to make this, please let me know and I'll make it from the ground up. But this is just basically a blank rack. Nothing's going on here. So when the sound goes through, it just comes through here, totally blank. And then the reverb is here. But I've done a couple of cool things to this to make the reverb pop a little bit more. The first thing I did, and this is a cool pro tip, is if you put if you flip the phase of your reverb, it will make your reverb pop a little bit more next to your vocals. Just a cool little pro tip. So by flipping your phase, it's going to allow your reverb to be a little more separated from your original signal. And I've done that. And then over here, this is the real magic here. So we've gone ahead and this is Bell or whatever, call it Bell. And I've sidechained the reverb to the actual bell itself. So this makes it sound, I can get a really big reverb sound, but doesn't sound like it's in the bathroom. So basically what it's gonna do is push down on the reverb while this is playing. And then when it comes up, no more side chaining. So we're going to hear that reverb. So it's going to do two things. It's going to keep my transients. My transients are still going to be preserved because they're not going to be drowned. It's not going to sound like it's in a bathroom. And the other thing it does is if you get your timing right here, then it adds almost a nice little pumping, pushing effect. So almost a rhythmic element to it as well. So let's hear this real fast. So right there, you can hear how the articulations come out, and still we get a nice big reverb sound, but it's not like, it doesn't sound like it's in a bathroom to me. It sounds like it's still very articulate. Another really cool thing about doing your reverb like this and not just like, doing it on the thing and then making it 20% or something, is that I could go ahead in this situation and EQ my reverb. I could do whatever I want actually, but in this situation, I took advantage of EQing my reverb. Another pro tip is if you guys ever use a reverb, usually a good rule of thumb would be always rolling off up to 300, right? So you never ever want like below 300 on your reverb. It's just, there's just nothing down there. I mean, unless you're like sound designing or something, right? But if you're like mixing, then yeah, you don't really need that. You don't really need that action there. Cool. So great. So now that we've got our reverb on there, basically I'm just going to go ahead and shape up my sound a little bit more here. And then Pro Q3, I always like to use Pro Q3 because of the tilt function, right? So I don't want to go into this too much right now, but they've got, if you notice, do you guys ever notice that if you have a EQ8 and a Pro Q next to each other, if you guys use both of them, they're not reading the same, right? Because the EQ8 is flat, kind of like white noise, and the Pro Q3 is more on a tilt, like pink noise, meaning that when I'm looking at this line, oh shit, fuck, wow, holy shit, guys, thunder just happened here, dudes. Oh man, wait, I'm still on, right? I'm still on, right? Yeah. All right, guys, bear with me. The thunder just struck and it scared the hell out of me. Anyway, so, right. So I'm going to just turn this guy off. So when I bring this in and we look at this, right, this guy here, you see this line here? This line represents, what happened? What did I do? That's weird. So this line represents the tilt. It looks like it's straight, but it's actually doing pink noise. So it's really cool to do like a final EQ with ProQ, because if you just make your sound, like if any part of the sound is peaking over the line, it's too loud, right? So and now this is a lot more even than it was before. And another cool thing about Pro Q3 is that if I go down here to the volume thing here, this guy right here has got auto gain. So I could do this manipulation here, and it's actually going to stay the same volume. So I don't lose my volume, but I get the shape, the more of the linear shape that I want. Awesome. I hope that wasn't too crazy or anything, but yeah, if you guys don't know about your auto gain and your tilt function, yeah, it makes this a very, very good plugin to use for EQing. Awesome. So at this point, we've got ourselves a nice even sound. And now we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of compression. And then a limiter just to limit our output. And like I said, because I wanted to get it ready for a session, right? Because ultimately, I want to be able to drag them in, right? So, right, so I want to keep them all around the same volume. So there we go. We've got ourselves a pretty nice sounding trap melody there. That over, and you'll be able to see the sub changing. Let's bring it down to a normal level. Nice, man, nice. Awesome. So, how are we feeling about that? Is everybody good on the process there? Everybody cool with that? Can we move on? Is there anything that I can explore or go a little bit deeper on there? We went through some basic melodic creation here. We did our first technique, which was using the MIDI effects, the scale, to keep us in key. We learned to keep it simple, right? So keep it on quarter notes, and then you know, kind of just follow our scale, find something that sounds interesting, and then yeah, from there, the processing that we did, and halftime was pretty wicked there too. Awesome, guys. Okay, so seems like we're doing okay. You guys are a shy bunch today. That's okay, I don't mind. Awesome. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is great. So that's one way, right? Making a, you know, just pulling in a scale thing and then messing around. I did that a few times. You got, you know, I gave you a few different. Cool. Just to give you guys, just so you can see repetition. Now, this is a pretty cool technique on this guy here. So this was going to be, we're going to make a chord progression, and then we're going to almost randomly pick one of those notes and bring it up an octave, and then extend it through the whole progression. And it's going to give us a nice little feel. This D is the note that I extended through the whole thing. So, great. So how can we go ahead and make a cool thing like that, right? Awesome. So let's go ahead and move this guy out of the way, and I'm going to show you guys how I did it, right? So again, let's pretend we've got no musical background at all, right? Let's just pretend that we're going through the steps, like I said, right? So another really cool thing that you could do is something like Captain Chords, right? So Captain Chords is going to be basically a generator for chords, right? So let's go ahead into, I guess we'll do maybe just regular minor this time, right? Okay, and let's go ahead and mess around with this a little bit to give us a starting point for our chord, right? So let's go here. Okay, so basically we need 4 of these guys. So let's go over here and, the best part about this is, you really just have to loosely aim at something. Let's go for 6. Let's go for 1. Plus here, we'll go 6. And then, we'll go plus, and maybe we'll go, how about 3? Then let's go to 5. I don't know. So then here, let's see if we can get a variation on this one. Awesome, I'm loving that. It's my favorite chord progression ever. So awesome, gives you a great starting point. I'm gonna grab my MIDI right from here, and I'm gonna pull it right up into my track here. And then I've got single notes, I guess, happening. So what we're gonna do is, okay, so before I bring it up there, I'm gonna bring it back down to here. So let's go ahead and pick one of these notes. Let's pick let's try A sharp. Let's do G actually, because that'll give us a good variation on the other ones. Let's try that. So I'm going to just copy paste, and I'm going to bring it up an octave. What we're going to do is that's the note we picked from the first chord. So now we're just going to literally copy it all over the whole thing. Awesome. So this is a great way to get all your chords to kind of tie together. And this is going to be technique 2, using like a chord generator, scalar, Captain Chords. And now we're going to bring this guy up here. And what we could do now is, let's see, grab ourselves, we could use the MIDI effect arpeggiate. And we've got our chain already set up here. So basically, that's pretty cool. Let's see what we got here. Basically, we can probably just get away with going G to F on our bass note. Let's see what happens there. Good enough for this purpose here. Great. This guy anymore, he was just to help us. Killer, right? So now we can go ahead and drop our halftime back on there since it's our same. By the way, guys, this is a really good technique. You guys are making a melody for your song. Don't just make one melody. You're really putting all your eggs in one basket. I would do what I'm doing in the sense that get yourself an instrument that you like, get a chain that you like I've done, and make 5 riffs. Use a couple different techniques, and at the end of the day, you'll have yourself several cool licks. One of them will obviously be your best choice, and you could use that one. And then you have other ones, to help, seed some ideas later or whatever. So instead of just writing one melody, same with anything you do, really. That's a habit that I'm trying to get myself into anyway. So yeah, so the processing remains the same on this one. Wicked, right? Cool. And if we wanted to pop that into our pack, I'm going to go ahead here and make that 0, solo this, go to our limiter here, turn that off, because we only want what's going to be coming through this guy here. And we'll go export it. Put it in here, and this will be, I don't know, how about 3? I think it's actually just natural minor, right? Yeah. Awesome. Honestly, and this is how I would usually do my thing, and then bring that guy in. Go to where you had it saved. Bring it in, and now we can start working with it, inside of here as a audio loop. No worries. Cool. Awesome. All right, so that was technique 2 on how to get these melody lines in there. How we feeling so far out there, guys? Everybody doing good still? I'm not really hearing anybody out there. Yeah? Yeah. Cool. So that's great. So picking an instrument, giving yourself limitations as far as quarter notes, eighth notes, picking a scale, or using scalar, or mixed in key, captain chords to help generate some chords, giving yourself a starting point, right? And then even that cool chord technique I showed you, where you pick a note from the first chord, copy it up an octave and stretch it out, gives a nice technique to tie all the chords in your progression together. It's just a cool little trick. Now, another way would be to do, some kind of crazy editing, right? Not crazy editing, but we're going to basically make this manual reverse here. So here it is right here. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, and this one is yeah, we got a bunch of layers on this. Let's kind of talk about what we did here. And again, I tried to give you guys examples of stuff that you can go ahead and do right away. So this guy here, basically, I just grabbed what we could remake it again. Let me move this guy out of the way. Here. Cool. So here we go. So this guy here is just simplest piano, right? I know it says Nexus, but it's not. It's just the simplest piano. You just type in simplest piano, and it pops right up. And And basically I just, again, made a simple little melody. That's all it is. So what I did was we started to edit this guy, right, or process it. So let's go ahead and freeze. So the first thing that we're going to do is, and here's a cool pro tip if you guys didn't know, if you want to freeze the track here, I can go ahead and option drag it down, and now I've got audio. Okay, so I'm kind of done with this track up here right now. Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut these sections out, right? So basically, just using Command E to slice, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and reverse them all, okay? So I'm going to hit R on each of these guys as well, okay? And right away, we've got this. Awesome, right? We're getting there. So first things first, let's go ahead and make a nice lower level to this, right? So let's go ahead and put these guys into a group so I can go ahead and solo the group. Now this guy, I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of halftime, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of halftime. I'm going to go into here and let's see, cable guys. Okay, and let's go ahead. And if we were really doing this, I would say make sure you're going. Kind of get that thing working for you. Cool. Sounding good. Let's play it with this guy now. Remember, guys, this is stretching this out, so the bottom is half the time as the top one. Cool. Now, your low end doesn't need to be some basic, some basic processing here. It doesn't need to be really could be mono. And then maybe a little glue compression just to kind of flip it a bit. Awesome. So now this is a cool little effect here. This guy here, if you go ahead and put a auto tune, if you have some type of an auto tune and you put it on your, on a piano, it does this weird like warbly thing that's kind of cool. So we could dial that in. We're really looking at G minor, right? Okay. Nice. So for a final touch on this guy, let's go ahead and take off the auto tune on this one, and let's go ahead and pop this up an octave. So these guys here will go up an octave. Very cool. Let's get a little movement on it by using maybe a little auto filter here, envelope. So if you guys don't know, when the envelope is turned up, the transient of your sound will engage the filter and move it. If your sound doesn't have enough transient or enough motion, then you know, you could just use the quantize, and this will just kind of it's like an LFO. It'll just push this thing in time with yeah, with your song. Got a little thing at the end. It's kind of a little artifact. Cool, I love it. And then maybe we'll just put a shit ton of reverb on this guy just to make it sound wicked cool. Yo, guys, I swear my power is going to go off. So let's mix this guy in now. Wicked. So from here, just a little bit of long and the short, there it is. Wicked. Nice. Cool. I'm just reading the thing. All right. Cool. So awesome. We've been headed through these guys, and I'm giving you guys some really cool techniques to try on all of these here. Okay. So this is pretty much what I wanted to show you guys for the melody creation part. Let's go back into here. Let me make sure that I'm not missing anything here. Pretty much that is what I wanted to show you guys here. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know. Comments, concerns. You think I'm out of my mind over here doing dumb stuff? You know, you can let me know that too. Awesome. So I want to get into talking about some loop manipulation, talking about simpler and sampler a little bit, and slice to MIDI and how we could take advantage of that. But first, I wanted to kind of go through, as a review a little bit, I wanted to go through some of these guys I put here for you. So this is something that, and if I'm missing anything, please let me know. When creating these melodies, I tried to reinforce it a bunch of times as we were going through it, but these are going to be some things to keep in mind while you're doing it, like a little checklist, right? Keep it simple, right? Try it first to just stick to the quarter notes or eighth notes, again, depending upon your BPM. Oh, here's something that's interesting, right? So just by the way you arpeggiate your notes, it will change the way your melody feels. So what do I mean? Well, let's see. If I go to here, right? So here, so if we're going up, right? So if it's going up, then it's a completely different feel than down. If you want your melody to sound more brooding or more like sad, for lack of a better word, just by moving your rotation to down, it makes all the difference in the world. It sounds a lot less uplifting than this one. So the way that the order that you do your notes definitely affects the feel of your progression and your melody. Awesome. Um, cool. I put that right there. By going downward, your melody becomes sadder. Here's that technique I showed you guys earlier with the grabbing a random note in your chord, popping it up an octave. Um, and here's another thing just to remind you guys to be side chaining your time-based effects, your delays, your reverbs, that sort of stuff. And then, give halftime a try. Give halftime a try. I think you'll like it. Awesome. Now, this here is a little bonus for you guys if you're interested. I tried to add as much value as I could for this for you guys. So, this is going to be like your gain staging peak levels for standard trap music. A lot of times when we're mixing, there is again, you got to know the box before you can think out of it kind of thing. Like if you're mixing for a genre, then a lot of times there are peak levels to jump after. So just to show you guys what that means, you could have your drums in a rack or whatever, but essentially that's what I use these limiters for. If you notice, I'm not really getting, I don't think, a whole lot of reduction at all, And I just want to demystify this real fast. A lot of people think that maximizers and limiters the same thing, right? It's the same thing, but they're not at all. They're completely different. Not completely different, but their function is completely different. They are sort of the same way they go about it, but a maximizer, just think about the name, maximizes your output, right? That's the algorithm. It's made to take a lot of information and give you a very transparent and strong limit that's going to maximize your sound. And that's what a maximizer is. A limiter, on the other hand, limits your output, okay? So, if you've got a pretty steady performance, but then like a filter sweep happens or whatever, you hit a high note and you get this big peak in energy, well, you don't want that to mess up your whole gain staging, right? You want your instrument to be at a certain level, right? So this is where the limiter comes in. So when I'm giving you these peak numbers, you can think of this as like your, all my drums coming through my bus or whatever, or all my bass is going through a bus, or all my melodies going through a melody bus. And, that's what I have that there for. So like you got your -10 and this guy's going to be the -15 and, you got the -18 or whatever on this one. And that's following my number system. It's gone now. Let me grab that back real fast. Anyway, so yeah, give me 1 second. Cool. All right, we're back. So this is what I kind of was showing you here. Like this is when I'm leveling stuff, at least in the beginning, just bringing my things. I got my kick, -10, -13. Percussions is going to be anything that's not a main snare. Tops is going to be anything that's, up top, shaker, cymbals, rides, hi-hats. Drum fills are going to be mixed there. Your sub, your music is everything that's, that's the music in the background. Like, it should be behind the vocals. Vocals, there's your mixing vocals for hip hop music. And then if you're doing trap, like EDM trap, this would be like your drop sounds, whatever. This is just a good, like if you guys didn't, if you're having trouble getting your tracks leveled, this could be a good bit of information for you there. Cool. Awesome. So, right, that should kind of do that for you. Now let's jump into making melodies with, out of loops, right? So loop manipulation. So first, first off, we got to be able to. So what we're going to be doing is kind of creating something along these lines here now. So we're going to go ahead into here. Okay, cool. Right. So we got this is like a loop. So basically, why? Okay, we always have those melody folders, right, where it's like piano loops or whatever, synth loops or choir loops or whatever. We've got all these loops in like melody folders, right? And a lot of us are, I don't want to say scared to use them, but scared to use them because, oh, what if, somebody sees that I'm using this, or, what if, they could use the same exact loop? How am I really going to use this, right? Well, one way would be to reorganize these things. Now, whenever I want to do one of these reorganizations, I often, on purpose, pick a loop that is not in the key that I want and also not in the time that I want. And this will further augment the loop, if you know what I mean. So first off, this guy is in F sharp and he was sitting at 128. And if I just turn warp off, this is what it sounded like. Awesome. So what we did was first of all, we repitched it to the key that we're in, which is G. Okay, so over here, we went and repitched it up the semitone. Okay, and then we kind of reorganized it, and it sounded like this at the end. Now that's thick because this is a completely different version of that loop, like not even close. Like nobody would be able to tell if that was in your song that came out of a sample pack, right? No way. So this is a great way to get creative with somebody else's material. You know what I mean? So there's a couple different ways that we can do this, and I think the easiest way, you could just right click it and you could say, okay, convert to like slice to new MIDI track or whatever, and then you get all these options. How do I want to do it? Where do I want to put it? All that kind of stuff, and that's great, totally, right? But going back a few releases in Ableton, Simpler, one of the main things with Simpler was that you got, well, a bunch of stuff, right? Remember, I think, was it 9.5 was huge, and you've got warp enabled inside your Simpler, and you've got, well, it allows you to do so many cool things, right? So first of all, why is it even important that we've got warping inside of Simpler? I mean, Sampler doesn't have warping, right? So what's the big deal? Well, you guys know that when you play a sample back much higher in pitch, it happens faster, right? So that messes up the timing. And if you play it lower, it stretches out the sample, right? And that's always been the way Simpler has handled samples. And that's why it was always pretty much good for like one shots. But now that we have, warping in here, well, you can't like warp it in the sense of like move it around. But when you do repitch it, or when you do notes and stuff like that, it does follow that algorithm. So it makes sampling inside of Simpler so much better. So great. So over here, you've got your classic mode. This is the way that it normally is, right? And then you've got one-shot mode, and that's great for, drum racks and stuff like that, or like even one-shots for, bass sounds or whatever. But then you've got this slice mode, and I wonder, a lot of people like overlook this, right? And it's really not hard. It's actually easy and super fun. So what ends up happening is it it locks to your keyboard, right? So let me show you what I mean here. Bring this guy back in. Word. So let's see. There we go. Okay, so it's going to lock to the keyboard, and it's going to be C, and then you're going to every half will be the next slice, right? So how do you denote the slices? Well, it's super easy. Like right here, you could do slice by transient, and that'll be every transient. You could do slice by beat, and then you tell it what the beats that you want. You could do regions. Manual is literally where you can put every, and then if you don't like where it is, you can, move these around and get that perfect spot. Zoom in, get it right up on the thing, so you have a lot of flexibility inside of here, right? So basically now, so if you see over here, I'm basically grabbing different sections of this with my keyboard, okay? So basically I just kind of played the beat, I rocked out for a little bit, super fast, happens super fast, and that's like I said, it's legally and morally usable, morally being more important, and yeah, it's a great way to, like, if you just, like, I don't know, drank a coffee one day and went through your sample library, I bet you could find 30 loops real fast, and then make a bunch of these loops here out of those loops, like original loops. And I'm all about creating a sonic palette these days, guys. What does that even mean? That means that, like, I'm no longer, like, if I want to sit down and write a trap song, like I was alluding to earlier, I'm no longer sitting down. What I used to do was sit down and be like, okay, I need a trap melody. I'm going to go ahead and then when I got one, I can move on, right? And what ends up happening is you get a half-assed trap melody because, well, if I knew how to do it, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have to noodle around or whatever, right? So by creating your guys' is, like, what I mean by sonic palette is like, okay, so I know that I like trap melodies. I know that I like chants that are tonal, and I know that I like certain types of impacts, and I know that I like, certain types of 808s or whatever, right? Like, after, like what kind of music you like, and if you don't, maybe just spend an afternoon listening to Spotify and write down some key things that you like. And now that you know what you like, you're going to go and make your sonic palette. And this kind of gets to what I'm saying, right? So instead of sitting down and writing one trap melody for a song, why not spend an afternoon and write 20, 30 trap loops, kind of like I'm showing you guys how to do now, and put that into a folder, right? And, next time you want to make trap melodies, guess what? You're going to go right to your folder, and it's going to make you sound more like you, obviously. And two, it saves you from just like rummaging through samples and loops. And by the time you find a sample and a loop that you want, you don't even remember the melody that you had in your head, right? Or you don't even remember the feel, the vibe of the song anymore. And this goes for everything, guys. Like, if you're still picking your drums when you open up your session, I gotta say, there's probably a better way to do it. I would say if you like a certain type of kick, or like me, I'm always writing in like one of three keys, like F or G, really, 2 keys. So basically, all my kicks that I have been building up over time are all tuned to F, all tuned to G, if you know what I mean. And so, yes, what I'm saying is, I say these days, man, it's better to create a nice sonic print and then make music from that, rather than just going on Splice and grabbing samples. Anyway, so long story short is, I'm showing you guys how to create your own libraries and stuff. Awesome. So good. I'm going to get off my soapbox now. So the one other thing that, there's so many cool things inside of inside of here. If you notice, maybe you didn't even notice, but one cool thing is I'm adding a little bit of an LFO to my pitch. Let me exaggerate it. Right? So this simpler has got so many wild things that you could do right in it that I would say don't skip it. And there's one more thing that I want to show you guys inside of Simpler and Sampler that is so worth the 5 minutes that I'm going to talk about it, because you really can't find it anywhere else. I mean, maybe I think autofilter allows you to use it as well. But I'm going to talk about this filter really fast for anybody that doesn't know. When it's set to clean, it's basically like having an EQ8, an EQ1, essentially. So essentially, like, more or less, this is the same thing, more or less at this point, more or less. So why am I making a big deal about it, right? Well, it's these other guys in here that are super important. And notice that when I click on anything else other than clean, that I get this drive knob here, right? So basically what this is Ableton's modeling analog filters. And for a very long time, people would say, oh, digital music is stale and clinical because, you know, if you were to run your sound through like an SSL board, it would run through and pick up the sound, right, of the board because of the electricity and stuff. So some people would just take their sessions and go, like their electronic sessions, stem out their stuff, go to a studio with like an SSL or an Oxford or something, and run their samples through, maybe not even using EQ or compression, just simply running it through the board to get that analog feel, because it feels warmer and creamier and more organic. Anyway, so down here, we've now got 1, 2, 3, 4 different analog filters. These are highly sought after things, and Ableton does an amazing job at their recreation of it. Unofficially, the PRD represents the Moog, right, or the Prophet board. The MS2 unofficially emulates the Korg, right? And the SMP is Ableton's hybrid of, I guess, the best of both, right? So if the Korg and Prophet board, Moog, had a baby, it would be the SMP. And then the OSR is Ableton's, if Ableton was an analog filter, like if Ableton had a console or whatever, this is what Ableton would sound like, right? So they've got their own custom analog, sound as well. And they all just sound a little bit different. They add a little bit more bite, a little bit more life. Some of them are bassier, some of them have bitier, some of them are fuller. You just have to kind of think of it as 3 different flavors, really, or 4 different flavors for your, might as well, when you bring it in, the first thing you have to do is like shape your sound a little bit, right? So you might as well add a little bit of that analog feel to it. Cool. So that's a great thing that you could do there. And then basically, yeah, it's just kind of throwing it through this guy again. And I don't think I even used halftime on this one at all. Cool. So let's see if we could do one of those together, right? So I've got a couple of these guys here. I just some random loops. Let's see if we can work with one of these here. And I'll move this over a little bit more. Sounds a little bit redundant. Let's stick with this guy here. So basically what we're going to do is we can go ahead and put it right into a simpler. Boom, right here. Okay. Okay, and then what we could do here is go down here to slice mode, and I'm going to go ahead to beats, and let's try this guy here. Okay, let's go ahead and arm this. So basically, we want to make sure we got this on for sure. Okay, cool. Okay, let's go ahead and pop this guy here. And let's see what we could do. Okay. Okay, like that. That's a cool little lick off the top of my head. Okay, those are my notes. Let's go ahead and get this in. There it is. Let's do that. Legato and make sure that we're on. So now, how could we take a little bit more advantage of this, right? So let's go ahead and do a couple of those things that we were talking about. Let's go into here, and since we're going to have to roll off the lows anyway, right? We always want to roll off 100, 150, get rid of those lows. This will create a nice little peak right there at that point, and we can go ahead and experiment with some of these. I think this one's the cleanest for this particular sound. Love that. Sounding good. Adding a little here. Awesome. Loving that. Okay. Remember, guys, if you're not getting the exact result that you want out of your sound, you can switch your warp modes here. So now we do have a little bit of extra functionality here in the sense that we can control the fade in, fade out of our hits. Right? So if you don't want that really transit there, or if there's a little bit of a pop or a click or something, you can kind of filter that out. Awesome. That's starting to sound really cool. We're starting to dig that. And then, yeah, we could take advantage of, any number of these if you want to. We can maybe do a little bit of, why not try it on the pan? Change it. Not bad, dude. So this is kind of what I'm saying. We're able to get a really sick sound out of just this. Add yourself a little bit of reverb on here. We're going to be able to have a pretty sweet sound right out of nowhere. And let's go ahead and employ our reverb rack here. So grab that. Let's bring this guy on down here. And then we'll sidechain it to itself, right? So we'll just say loop here. Okay, and we're going to sidechain it to itself. You guys, when you're doing your side chaining here, don't forget to use this EQ, right? So basically, this is showing the compressor a limited part of the signal, because with it on, it's really hard to get that flip back, right? Because the signal is, well, so big, right? If I limit the signal, now I'm really just trying to find the transient of the signal, and yeah, that's all I want out of that. Then I'm able to get that. Nice. Nice, nice. And that's going to sound pretty cool with our drums and our sub under it. Nice, awesome. So we could take, you know, any of these loops, kind of chop them up a little bit. Also, you know, don't be afraid to print it to audio, and, you know, you could do more of that reversing or pitching and stuff like that, or whatever. Awesome. So very cool. So with does anybody have any questions on anything with the simpler or anything like that? You can take a lot of advantage of this simpler here for sure. Another thing that I can show you guys is that, let's say we liked this the way it was or whatever. So let me see here. Down into here. We could take this over to sampler. So also, did you guys know that you could put FM synthesis on anything? So it's pretty gnarly. You have all your waveforms here and whatnot. So these simplers and samplers are pretty full on for manipulating your audio. You can take them in, and between the two of them, there's really not much that that you can't do, or that you'd want to do there. Let me show you one more cool thing with these guys here. So I actually have I load my sub inside of here. So one other cool thing inside of here is your pitch envelope, right? So like, what does this thing even do? So without it on, okay? So without it on, it's just kind of blah, right? But when I put it on, notice that there is this punch at the beginning of my sub. So if I turn, so basically what's happening is it's pitch bending down from this semitone. So at this speed, right? So basically if I make it faster, now we're getting that boom, boom, right? So now we're using the pitch envelope inside of here to give us more of a thwack on the front end of our sub. And this is how they do kick drums, snares for that matter too. So if you guys ever want to add a little bit of nose on the front end of that, um, awesome. And finally, the one other thing I want to tell you guys is when we're doing trap music, you often want your sub to be very loud, right? But if you end up limiting your sub too much and you don't take into consideration, this auto is great, but this still makes a big difference. So if I sometimes you get a lot of distortion when you're limiting and your release is a little bit on the fast side. So when you open your release up, it'll pull back on that distortion from there. So cool, 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 nice. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna kind of glance through my thing here, and this is we're pretty much into the the question portion here. The last half hour is saved for questions. I always end up saving some time for questions. So let's just chat, guys. Please, let's talk about some of the stuff that we were talking about today. But hold on, let's review real fast though. Right. So cool. So again, when manipulating your loops, try to start with good source material, right? Like not every loop. I mean, sure, you can make something creative out of anything, right? But if you start with something that's inspiring even a little bit to you, you like the way the plucks feel, you like the way the instrument sounds, whatever, right? Like, don't just pull in anything and start moving things around. Like, I think if the one thing I want you guys to take away from our lesson today is the step-by-stepness, right? Like, in the sense that a lot of times we think our favorite artists are like these prolific gods, right? Like, how does he do it? Like, he just sits there and he's like, and it just comes to him. He's like, no, it's like these guys. I promise you, like all your favorite artists have a formula and they stick to a plan. You know what I mean? So, right. Anyway, so cool. So again, starting with good source material, giving yourself a great place to start from. Now, after you, like I said, these guys aren't super like prolific gods, like you said. These guys are starting from a plan, following a particular workflow that works for them. So the less guessing, let's put it that way. How's that? The easiest way to say it is when you're sitting down to get something done, the less guessing you're doing, the better off you are. If you've got your sonic palette ready and you've got ideas in the sense that like, oh, I know I want it to be a guitar. I know I want it to be a blah, blah, blah. Things are going to be smoother for you. Don't try to just be some prolific guy where you're just going to be like, yeah, I'm going to write a trap song today. I'm just going to sit down and trap it out. Okay. Anyway, so after you found your sample or source material that you're jiving with, don't jump right into manipulating it, right? Tune it first. Get it to work in your song, even if it's like working like, oh, it's not going to work with your bass line, but like it's working, in your song because it's in the same key, everything is right. Then do your manipulations. It's going to make life a lot easier for you, and that's what we did every time today. We took the time to put it in the right key first, and then after we were sure that it worked, we went in and manipulated it. Awesome. So we spent a nice amount of time talking about simplers and samplers. And again, like beside contact sampler, I don't think, and even that's debatable, but contact sampler is full on. I don't know that there's a better sampler out there than simpler and sampler inside of Ableton. So, some people just like skip that, and I wouldn't. Cool. Yeah, don't forget about those analog filters, right? They're just in there, and you might as well add them to your drums, your 808, anything. I always start in simpler and sampler, whether I'm making trap melodies, trap beats. It doesn't matter. Like I'm always starting there. It just makes more sense. And then again, don't forget to sidechain your time-based effects, right? Awesome. Cool. So, okay. So like, let's see, what do we got here? So now, again, I am not, let's just grab this guy here and let's see. I want to open up Gross Beat for you guys just so you can see it. Um, I don't, like, I'm not like a super pro at it because I just actually just got it. But yeah, I kind of know how to use it. So here's Gross Beat, right? So this is way more complicated than halftime, but it does a lot more than halftime does. So if you're just looking for that, like halftime kind of Travis Scott feel, then just go with halftime. But if you're looking to get creative, then this might be the way to do it for you. So basically, this is going to just loop over and over again. Because I mean, I got one shot mode here, but it's going to loop in this 4-bar situation here, right? So let's see, we can just go to like patterns, and then you'll see these guys pop up, right? So let's see if I go to here, let's see what this sounds like. I think this one was pretty cool. It has like record stops and crazy. So let me show you a couple more things in here. This is pretty gnarly stuff. So you can pitch it down, pitch it in and stuff. You got your wet dry here. And then it's a lot like LFO Tool in a kind of a crazy way too. So let's go here and do some like stutters, yeah. So down here, let's try this. So basically, in a nutshell, this up here, this window deals with time. I'm sorry, pitch, and this window down here deals with volume. So you could like draw in a lot of these crazy things and really kind of reorganize the way that your beat or sample is coming through here. And then it also has some like DJ effects, which is kind of cool, right? So like you could do like backspin. This is pretty cool. So, like I said, I haven't. This is a bit over my pay grade right now because I just got it. Oh, and these things snap, right? So these guys are going to help you snap to the grid here when you're drawing it in. Yeah, that's what these guys do. And this is just allowing you to write it. And then you can go in and switch up these lines. I can make it like a smooth curve, or you can make it like a single, whatever. So yeah, this is Gross Beat, and it's like halftime to the craziest. Right, I don't have that URL. You have to what you have to do is you've got to go to I guess what image line, right? Imageline.com. They're the guys that make Fruity Loops, and you have to sign up for their site or whatever. It's free, and then once you're registered, you're able to go into the forum, right? So once you get into the forum, you're just going to have to tool around a little bit until you find the OS X beta, and then that's the hardest part, really. None of it's hard. And then, yeah, once you sign up for the site, you go in to the forum, search for OS X beta, and there's a download link right there. That's the best I could do for you, because if I gave you a link, if you didn't sign up, you know what I mean? Plus, I don't even really remember where in the forum it was. It was one of those like digging, and then you find it, and you're like, cool, there it is. Nice. But yeah, but even better than that, I mean, geez, it's got like everything. It's got everything that, that the vocoder is pretty cool. They got SliceX, Harmor is the bass, is that bass thing that I think Seamless uses a lot or whatever. So yeah, whatever. Cool stuff there. Cool stuff there. Awesome, guys. Awesome. Trying to think if there's anything that I have missed or overlooked at all here. Nice. Cool. So, yeah. I'm not sure. I know we just got like 10, 15 minutes. Like I said, usually fielding some questions, but hey, you guys didn't have any questions for me today. No, the Shaper box, Dustin, is sort of like it, but it's in the sense that Shaper box is more of an envelope, right? So it's, if anything, it's sort of like this section down here. So I guess, yeah. It's like this section down here, right? But so is like LFO tool. Basically, that's what this is here. I think the real power in Grosbeat is this section up here, and this is like a turntable almost. I could like scratch this, wiki, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you could do some like really, really gnarly stuff on this pitch-wise. That yeah, I don't know. Shaperbox could do this thing down here for sure, but yeah, I don't know about this section up here. Cool. All right, guys. All right, well, let me see. Okay. So awesome, guys. So don't forget that you'll be able to download this. Where's my? Okay, so don't forget, you guys will be able to download everything from here. Where is it at? Yeah, the session, the keynotes, the session, all this stuff here. Don't forget, it's going to take a couple of days for us to render it and to get everything up on the site, and it'll be available there for you guys for a little bit. You know, in review, guys, just spend a little bit of time making some melodies. You know, it's the only way you're going to get better at it. In the sense that, you know, watching me do it is one thing. Hopefully, you know, I tried to add as much value as I could here. I tried to give you guys as many notes as I could. Hopefully, this will be a good roadmap for you guys. So I'm going to give you guys, I guess, one more opportunity to. You know, to ask any questions that you guys have. Wait a minute, hold on. Do you keep melody contour in mind when you're composing? Is this to me or to everybody? I mean, I guess when I say keep melody contour in line, I guess I don't really know what you mean. I don't really think I keep that in mind. I just melody is there to it's mixed so low if you think about it, right? Like your kick is mixed at -10, your sub comes in at like -14, and then your melody is sitting down at like -18 or -20. So it's really just like a super cool thing to keep the listener entertained while the drums are really doing their job, and then ultimately the rapper is doing his job, or the lead. Cool. Yep. Don't forget to check this out, guys. Don't forget to give it a shot. I'll see everybody soon.